What's happening, everybody? Jay Shockblast here, and I just got back from seeing Wonder Woman, and man, oh man, what an amazing movie. This movie was phenomenal in every sense of the word, and I'm speechless. Like, I don't remember leaving a movie feeling as emotional as I did leaving Wonder Woman. And it's crazy to me because I kind of went into the movie with a bad attitude. I didn't understand how it was getting such high marks, and I almost felt like there had to be something to it. I've been rubbed the wrong way about the way certain people that have nothing to do with comics and nothing to do with this world that we live in. And I know that sounds elitist, but it's really not. I kind of think people should understand what I mean by that. Like, the true believers of the world, you know, those of us that just love this comic book lifestyle and the movies that we are immersed in that culture. And I feel like there were a lot of people that could care less. To them, Wonder Woman was just another female at the front, and they wanted to latch onto it and make it their own and advance some kind of a feminist agenda. And that stuff, like, rubs me the wrong way, because I don't want that for Wonder Woman. And I was worried that that is what this movie would turn into. And I'm so thankful and so proud that it is not. And that might sound strange, and I'm sure people are going to take that the wrong way, but hear me out. I did not want Gal Gadot or Wonder Woman to come out of this movie as anything more than a superhero. I don't want them to be a female superhero. I want them to be a superhero. I want people to look at Wonder Woman the same way that they look at any other superhero. I want them to look at her the same way we look at Superman and Batman and the Flash and Green Lantern and Cyborg and everybody else that's, you know, all the men, if you will. I know that there's a lot of beauty to Gal and to Wonder Woman. She's always portrayed so stunningly, and that's part of the allure of Wonder Woman. And Patty Jenkins, the director of the film, had every opportunity to turn this into something it didn't need to be, and she didn't. She let Diana tell the story. She let people fall in love with Wonder Woman because of who she is and not because of the woman. And that, to me, is the most powerful way that you can tell a story. I don't like Superman because he's a man. I don't like Batman because he's a man. I like him because he's a great character. I like them because they're great characters. And such is the case with Wonder Woman. And I think a lot of times we fall into the trap of trying to have her, like, hang with the boys, if you will. No. She didn't. There's none of that. And that's, it's amazing. And it's kind of weird because, you know, she comes from the land of Themyscira, a land of nothing but women. And even that aspect isn't, like, pushed in anybody's face. It's like, it feels natural. And that's the ultimate compliment. This is very much a coming-of-age story. This is just a beautiful origin story where we see a young Diana who's sheltered by her mother and told the stories of her creation, how she was made from clay and given life by Zeus. And, you know, given the stories of how, you know, the Amazons are there to protect the world from war. You know, Ares looms ominous, and he's basically portrayed as a god killer and ultimately is going to come for them. And Hippolyta is trying to keep Diana away from that, even though she knows who Diana is and is supposed to be. And we see that when Steve Trevor happens to enter the equation and the war comes to Themyscira. I'm trying to avoid spoilers as best I can, but at this point I do have to say it is possible it's really hard to talk about this movie without there being some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, I definitely recommend you come back and listen to the rest of the review from here. because it's really tough to avoid. So, with that said, you've been warned. You know, Steve Trevor is a pilot, a spy, I should say, for the Americans working with the British and having just invaded the Germans. And, you know, there's a battle in Themyscira, and Diana, you know, we see it in the trailers. She jumps in and saves him. And this is the first time she's ever met a man. And she ends up, you know, having this conversation about the war and everything that's going on. And this is where we see her naive innocence. Her, you know, she doesn't understand everything that's going on around her, but she knows she has to do something, and she uses it as a call to power. Her aunt, she just watched her aunt, the sister of Hippolyta, played by Robin Wright, of many different fames apparently, but I know her as Miss Underwood from, Vice President Underwood from House of Cards. But anyway, her aunt Antiope has been secretly training her over the years, and she is a warrior. She always wanted to be a warrior, and now she's got everything that they think is necessary to defeat Ares, including the sword called Godkiller. And she's thrust into World War I. It's a different world. Like, this is where, you know, the whole, you know, girl power thing could have been, you know, really flushed out, but they don't. And I think that's the beauty, and it's really empowering, I think, to watch her naivety, her being naive and not understanding everything that's going on, and how her just walking into a room full of generals and world leaders clashes with culture of the time. There's a lull where they're going after Ludendorff, the German general, played by Danny Houston, aka William Stryker. There's a lull there, and I think if you can, that was the point in the movie where I was like, this is going to drag from here, isn't it? And that's kind of the only reason I would give this, you know, a little bit of a lower score, is they didn't find a way to make that a little bit more interesting. And I know that might be unrealistic. I might be, you know, this is an origin story. They had to kind of do that, but it is what it is. And I think we learn a lot about the characters and how they all interact, and it does add to the value of her experiencing all these new things and figuring out, you know, her place in this world. Ultimately, it comes to a showdown with Ludendorff at the end, and then the major plot twist kicks in, and we are introduced to the real Ares. And it's, I mean, you know, take from that what you will. The battle between Wonder Woman and Ares, I did not think we were going to get that. When she's found Ludendorff, I thought, that's it, really. And that was the point where I was ready to jump off. And that is actually the moment when everything really just becomes mind-blowing. The last, I would say, half hour of this movie is as good as any ending of any comic book movie. It's not as in your face with the special effects and colors of a Guardians of the Galaxy, but there's a lot going on, and I personally loved the showdown with Ares. I was really worried for a second that they weren't going to let Ares be Ares, but I wasn't expecting this at all, and maybe that's part of the reason why I loved it so much. Ares is Ares. Like, it is full armor, full everything, and the battle is just incredible. And the story of Steve Trevor it's frustrating, but it's understood, and it makes the movie beautiful and understandable and relatable, and it makes you understand how Wonder Woman became who she is. Steve Trevor has been a long time Wonder Woman love interest, and you know, Chris Pine playing, you know, a early 1900s version of Steve Trevor ultimately means that he's gonna die at some point by the time we get to her in the Justice League, because he is human after all. He's gonna grow old and all those things. So when I initially heard that Chris Pine was gonna play Steve Trevor, I was disappointed. I thought the DC universe was wasting Chris Pine, but I feel like by having Chris Pine be Steve Trevor, we instantly have that attachment to him, the actor, and it makes his ultimate sacrifice that much more uplifting and powerful, because, you know, he could have been the Green Lantern and he could have had multiple films that he was in, but he was Steve Trevor, and Steve Trevor is very important to Wonder Woman becoming the hero she needed to be. And I really think that it was a really beautiful interaction. I think Chris Pine and Gal Gadot really worked well together, and I loved their story, and it's really, the movie was fantastic, and I'm just so thankful that she stood out for being who she is, you know, and I really believe that this movie is going to have such a lasting effect on female characters in all, you know, hero movies, whether it be comic book or war or anything. Because, yes, part of what makes Wonder Woman who she is the fact that she's a woman. You didn't have to focus on that aspect of her. She just was. She just existed as a human being. And I love that, because we don't make men, you know? We don't make the male comic book heroes just pure men, you know? Like, we don't focus on that aspect. But for some reason we do with the female characters, and this was, in a lot of ways, that opportunity for the female character to take the shine, to take the lead, and show that they can carry a movie. And I hope this movie is very successful. I really think that this is the best movie in the DC universe. It has me finally excited for Justice League. It's hard, though, because this is lightning in a bottle, very literally. You can't tell this story again. When we get to Justice League, Diana is a different person. She is, you know, very much grown, you know, with over a century under her belt, you know, since the war, and she's not the naive young girl she was that we experienced here. And we'll see what happens, but I just can't say enough about how I felt. Like, I got to my car after the movie was over, and I sat there, and I was emotional. Like, I was like, wow, this was really good, and it made me feel really good. And I think that's the highest of compliments. It changed the way I look at Wonder Woman. And I wouldn't have called myself ever a Wonder Woman fan per se, but like, this was fantastic. Like, I don't want to like throw hyperbole at everybody and say, oh my god, this could be Oscar worthy. Maybe. I mean, there was no cheese. And, you know, comic book movies, inevitably, there's going to be those cheese moments. There's literally only one moment of cinematography that made me say, the effects weren't really good there. And that's when she's holding a tank over her head. It didn't look the best, but like, that's like one shot out of an entire movie that made me say, you know, so I'm going to give it a mulligan there. You need to see this movie. It's amazing. You know, I would say just go into it looking at it just the same as you would Superman, just the same as you would Batman. Like, I don't look for anything more than you need to. Just take it for what it is, because what it is really powerful story. You know, I thought what we were looking at up until we got through that lull was, okay, this is, you know, Captain America, the First Avenger. You know, this is that throwback, you know, moment where we're seeing this war movie, and then he's going to fast forward into the future, and that's that. But no, this is definitely a great movie, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. A lost opportunity to tie it in to the Justice League. No after credit scenes. I really tried to be delicate with the way I talked about this, because I don't like I want females to succeed in the comic book world. But like any story, I don't love it. Like comics to me are an escape, like I don't love it when politics and those type of things are thrust in front of people, because it ultimately takes the attention off the characters. And this movie focused on a character that is empowering, and I think that, if a young girl or a woman goes into this movie and feels empowered because of what they see, I think that's fantastic. But that wasn't the goal of the movie. And that's the part that I think is so amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Let me know what you think. Again, I try to be a little bit delicate talking about this, because I am, after all, a guy, and the last thing I want to do is be accused of mansplaining or anything like that. But again, that's why I went into this with such a bad attitude, because ultimately that's what these type of conversations turn into. And I don't want that. Like, I want us to go to these movies and just appreciate the characters. And for 2 hours and 21 minutes, focus on, the amazing actors and the amazing story and the amazing character that is Wonder Woman. And that's the ultimate compliment that I think any character can achieve, is to just stand out on their own because of the story they told. We'll see ya.